Love, trust, and commitment. These are the foundations of any lasting marriage. But what happens when betrayal shatters that foundation? This is the story of Mike and Melissa, a couple whose 25-year marriage was rocked by infidelity and the dramatic transformation that followed. Mike and Melissa met in college. She was stunning, Japanese descent, soulful brown eyes, and curves that could stop traffic. Mike, on the other hand, was a tall, goofy guy from the Midwest. Despite their apparent differences, they fell in love. Together, they built a life. 2 kids, successful careers, and a marriage that seemed unshakable. Or at least, that was what Mike thought. After their kids left for college, Mike and Melissa downsized to a beautiful condo. Life was good, or so it seemed. But over time, Melissa grew distant. Their intimacy dwindled, and Mike could sense something was wrong. He brushed it off as stress or aging. But deep down, he felt that the truth was far more painful. When Mike first noticed Melissa's distance, he tried to rationalize it. He thought it might be stress, aging, or the natural ebb and flow of a long-term relationship. However, his instincts clearly told him something was wrong. The installation of security cameras in their condo, initially meant to protect against break-ins, became the tool that revealed the truth. Watching the footage of Melissa with Brad and Alice shattered Mike's trust and self-esteem. He felt humiliated, betrayed, and emasculated. The emotional pain was compounded by the fact that Brad and Alice were neighbors, people he had considered friends. With the footage safely stashed, Mike now saw the undeniable truth. His wife of 25 years had been cheating on him for a while now. Mike's revenge was not impulsive. It was meticulously planned. He understood that confronting Melissa outright would only lead to denial or excuses. Instead, he chose to manipulate the situation to expose the full extent of the betrayal. Mike used the security footage to piece together the timeline of Melissa's infidelity. This evidence was not just for his own clarity, but also to ensure that Melissa, Brad, and Alice couldn't downplay or deny their actions. Mike decided that if the time was ever going to be right, it had to be now, and he had to take matters into his own hands. He instructed Melissa to call Brad and Alice, pretending to need their help in managing Mike's suspicions. This was a psychological move. Mike wanted to see how far Melissa would go in deceiving him and how Brad and Alice would react when they thought they were in control. He set an elaborate trap. Melissa called Brad and Alice, luring them to the condo under the guise of discussing how to handle Mike. Little did they know that Mike had a plan that would change everything. Mike was going to spike their drinks with GHB, a sedative that would render them incapacitated. This was both a practical move to ensure they couldn't fight back, and a symbolic one to strip them of their power and control. When Brad and Alice arrived, Mike played the confused husband. But once they were incapacitated, the real Mike emerged. He confronted them, humiliated them, and made it clear they had messed with the wrong man. Brad and Alice thought they could control Melissa and, by extension, Mike. They were wrong. Finally, Mike could not take it anymore and decided to confront Melissa. That's when she dropped the bomb. She had cheated on him, but it wasn't just a one-time mistake. She had been entangled with Brad and Alice, their neighbors, who had convinced her to join their open marriage. Mike was devastated, but he wasn't going to let this slide. Mike's revenge wasn't just about physical retaliation. It was about psychological domination. He wanted Brad and Alice to feel the same humiliation and powerlessness he had, that Brad was no longer the alpha in the room. Throughout the whole remainder of the ordeal, Mike referred to Alice as meat, reducing her to an object for his gratification. He forced her to admit that Mike was superior to Brad, both physically and sexually. By reducing her to a submissive role, forcing her to crawl, calling her cunt, and denying her orgasms, he redefined their relationship. Melissa's willingness to accept this new dynamic was a testament to Mike's psychological hold over her. Brad watched as Mike took control of Alice, showing him exactly what he had lost. And Melissa, she watched it all, realizing the depth of Mike's anger and the power he now held over her. After the confrontation and Brad leaving their house shamed, Mike established a new dynamic in his marriage. This wasn't just about punishment. It was about restructuring their relationship to ensure that Mike held all the power. She begged to stay with him, to make things right, but things would never be the same. Mike laid down the law. Melissa would submit to him completely. No more equality, no more trust. She would become his submissive, his cunt, as he called her, and she agreed. Since that day, their marriage has transformed. Mike ensured that Melissa signed a post-nuptial agreement that gave him the freedom to sleep with other women without repercussions. This was both a legal safeguard and a psychological reminder of her diminished status. And as additional measures, he made Melissa wear a collar, a symbol of her submission. She's now tattooed with Mike's name above her sex, a permanent reminder of who owns her. She hasn't had an orgasm in 3 years, and according to Mike, she's happier than ever. Why? Because she finally understands her place. Betrayal changes people. It changed Mike. It had changed Melissa, and it changed their marriage forever. Some might call it extreme, but for them, it works. Love isn't always about equality. Sometimes it's about power, control, and understanding your role. While his actions are extreme, they highlight the profound impact that infidelity can have on a relationship, and the ways in which people cope with the pain of betrayal. Whether his approach was justified or not is up for debate, but one thing is clear: Mike's marriage will never be the same. Thanks for watching. If you've ever faced betrayal or questioned the dynamics of love and power, remember this: sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the most profound transformations. And keep in mind, revenge, no matter how sweet it sounds, never fixes issues permanently.